Oh my God.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to another edition of Move It or Lose It. And here we are live, very exciting one. It might look a little different, like one of these kids are not like the other one. That will be me. Thank you to all of my Black guests today, my beautiful dark guests today. They're coming on to help us and me understand more and get awareness. What is it like to be a Black person in today's culture? Now, then, before, after COVID, what is it like? We want to know. We want the information. We want to understand so that we can be closer. So, Rosani, I'm giving it to you first, girl. Help me understand wherever you want to start. But I really want to know in your diagnosis stuff, how did you feel like this isn't the same way? Why am I not being seen the same?
Yes, so my name is Rosani Christy, and I would just like to begin by saying that, yes, I'm a woman of color. I do come from South Asia. Okay, I come from Sri Lanka, but I'm so happy you invited me on this podcast. And I have been on some of Dawn's podcasts before. So I when I want to start with my diagnosis story is I was diagnosed at 16 years old, and that was because I started having blurry vision. And
Okay.
so it took about 2 years for me to get diagnosed because the doctor wanted 3 symptoms. So upon diagnosis, I was informed by the doctor himself, I don't know how you got this. This is a white man's disease. And I thought, okay, but thank goodness Montel Williams was already very public about his MS, and it made me at ease that I was not a freak of nature,
Right.
because I was a colored person with MS. And I am so glad, like, he was just out there doing his thing, you know. Being a talk show host is not easy, and he was a great role model for me. I thought, like, I didn't have to just suddenly end my life right there and sit in the corner of a room. So yes, my MS symptoms did not really manifest. My blurry vision went away with some steroids, and I didn't experience it actually until now. And right now, I am 38 years old.
Okay.
So fingers crossed with that. And yeah, so I went through school. I had a job. I was teaching. And right, I'm sorry if my story is kind of scattered. Please feel free to ask me questions. Because I do.
We're all scattered, girlfriend.
That's
Not
what
one
I'm
of us can
saying.
keep a cognitive thought for 30 seconds.
That's
You're
what
in
I'm
the great
saying.
group.
So it's scattered all over the place. So yeah, so like I was saying, I guess I have a quote unquote normal, like, people get shocked when I am also wheelchair bound. So
Okay.
when people see me and hear that I do in fact have a child and I am in fact married, they get really confused. I have experienced that. Another thing that was different with my MS diagnosis is that a lot of white people, yes, when they find out their kids or whoever has MS, they know what it is. But people of color, we are not familiar with it. I mean, we come from the tropics where, people do not, like, experience such a debilitating disease like this one. So the first thing my mom did was she tried to pray it out of me, which I don't know if the other people on here experienced, but yes, so she tried to pray it out of me, and of course felt that it was because I wasn't faithful enough, that I didn't believe enough, that it couldn't be prayed out of me. And it took a while for my family to accept. It took longer than it took me. And
Okay.
I know there are some people even right now who still believe that they in fact can do that, pray it out of me. I think the reaction that white people I know who are white, the reactions from their families compared to the reaction from my families was the biggest thing for me. My family did not know how to support me. And that was very frustrating
Yeah.
on my part. Yes. So, and again, when people see me who are, colored, they ask me, what is it? What do you have? When I tell them, a lot of people don't know what it is.
Right. Oh, for sure. For
They
sure.
don't. Whereas when if a white person asks me and I tell them, they know what it is,
Oh,
because
yeah.
Canada has one of the the greatest numbers of people with MS. It's 1 in
Right.
1,000.
Right.
And they're like, oh, it's MS. Whereas my people are like, what is that? And then it gets frustrating and I hate explaining it. Like, how many times are you going to explain it? So I
Right.
just say it was a motorcycle accident and then get on my way, right? So these are
Yeah. I
ways
would.
yeah, this is how I cope, actually. It's a coping mechanism, which is another thing. In 2017, I got into stand-up comedy. I took a course at the Second City, and I found that comedy was a way that I was able to vent on
Okay.
stage and actually have power over my disease, because I was able to make fun of the audience and let them know how ignorant they sound with the comments they make.
So when
And
you do your comedy, so I want to have you on by yourself because I want to hear about this guy. I'm trying to get Mike had to go. I was trying to get him back on. Um, what is it? I want to hear, like, what when you joke around your comedian stuff, what is it that you give me one of your jokes?
well, I don't do two-liners. A lot of them are stories, but I always start by I was called an inspiration at the liquor store checkout. I mean, who says that but me? I guess I'm just a rolling inspiration everywhere I go. And then, or I got called a role model at the cannabis clinic.
Right.
Again, yes. So I'm setting examples everywhere I go, apparently. And
I love
that's
it.
how I start. Yeah. And yeah, and just like I said, the questions I get asked, like, wow, you're able to give birth, things you would never ask a person who is able-bodied, or
Right.
who has like the disease is invisible. So
Sure.
that's where I am right now. I'm doing comedy on Zoom. And as I want, of course, like I don't like putting pressure on myself. And then that triggers another
Yeah.
set of symptoms we experience. So as of now, I'm just taking it easy, doing my comedy as I can. I have some shows lined up, but yes, that's about it. Please ask away, because I can't think of anything right
Thank
now.
you.
Okay.
No, thank you. And then let's see, I'm Dawn, I'm gonna have you go because I know that can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Give me
Okay,
like 30 seconds or less than that. Hold on.
okay,
Okay, I'm ready.
go for it.
Okay, so I'm sharing my MS story.
You can share wherever you want. What I had asked is from a white woman getting diagnosed. When I was diagnosed, I was also told that this is a white woman's disease. So me being me, and I don't know a stranger, and I want to know everything about every person. When a Black woman came in, I just grabbed her and said, you can get this? And she said, yes. I said, help me understand, because they told us that this was just a white woman's disease. And I've had Indian people come in. I've had Black men come in. I'm so confused. And so she was wonderful. She explained so much to me, but that's always been my way. I have a Black granddaughter, and I went to the hairstylist. I was like, if you notice I'm white and blonde, I don't know how to do Black hair, but I'm not going to have this little girl go to school and have her hair crazy, because I can't talk to a person and say, help me understand. So yes, Dawn, basically is what we're sharing is, what was it like for you as a woman of color going and trying to, the diagnose, the doctors, the not understanding any of that?
Okay, so I have a totally different story because like I never experienced any sort of blockage or barrier or because of me being Black or any type of like confusion, like I can get this. Like, I mean, initially I was like, oh, when I was reading about it, I was like, oh, this is rare. But my mom's best friend growing up, she had MS. And so it wasn't like unknown to me, but it's still like through reading, I was like, oh, well, that's weird that I would get it. And it was weird that her best friend had it. And I never had, I don't know, I never had any experience of feeling different because I was Black. Like I always just felt like the young girl with MS.
Right.
So I guess I just don't fit into that kind of, I don't know what people.
Well, no, thank God.
Yeah. I've been so blessed to have amazing doctors. Like nobody ever spoke down to me. I never had any issue with doctors not like necessarily thinking that, you know, there was something wrong. I mean, at first they didn't know what was wrong, but nobody was like, oh, you're crazy, go home and take an aspirin. You know, it was like, you know, I always had amazing care and I really have been blessed with that. And probably because both my parents are in the healthcare field and they knew, they knew people. So, and then I've had the best neurologist since I was diagnosed. And she's a biracial woman. And I just don't, but she's like white presenting, but she identifies as a Black woman, but like, I don't know. I've just never had an uncomfortable experience over 20 years. I mean, well, maybe once, but that was just a difference because I was vegan and they were like trying to force something on me.
That vegan isn't what I was looking for, but that's good. No, but Dawn, I'm sorry, I didn't do a very good job. Dawn Morgan, and you also do my Wind Down Wednesdays on once a month, but tell us about your podcast too that you have.
Oh yes. So I was one half and the originator of Myelin and Melanin, and I split this summer. We ended our collaboration this summer and I branched off on my own, and I have a podcast called The Unquiet Mind.
I love that name.
Thank you. It has taken me you know, a few months to just kind of get it going because I have 1,000,001 things on my plate right now. Not bad, but just, you know, like a lot of stuff. So I am transitioning back into the podcast world and honestly really wanting to focus on video casts, I should say. And I'm just kind of, you know, I've been in the MS world for like 22 years now. I was diagnosed. It'll be 2022 in May.
Because we're the same. We're almost the same because I was diagnosed Mother's Day. Very good. So I'm going to move on. Damian, we'll have one of the guys share because Mike is coming back on, and Tyler apparently got lost in traffic and lost his phone, his computer. I don't know. So
I was going to pass this to Dr. Taylor because she's been sitting there like this.
She's been sitting there so well. I'm going to have to give her some gifts. Actually, you're going to have to send her gifts.
I want to hear Dr. Folake Taylor's story. Go on with it.
All right, go.
Okay, Damian. Hi, everybody. So I'm Dr. Folake Taylor, and I'm a doctor of
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And I am the MS educator. Whoop, whoop. Anyway, I was diagnosed in 2016. I was almost 43 then, and but that's after decades and decades of symptoms. Looking back, I have had MS symptoms since I was a child, and I was first evaluated in the UK for wrist, issues with my wrist when I was trying to do some summer job that, involved repetitive motion and stuff. And I would have a lot of wrist pain and I couldn't do it. Also, I had enrolled in night class in college for typing and I just couldn't do it. So the doctor ran all these rheumatologic tests and everything, and nothing showed up. So, and that happened for decades. They kept, testing me for all these rheumatologic disorders and nothing showed up. And by the time I was in med school, I figured I had an autoimmune disorder, but we didn't know what it was. Funny thing is, my best friend's dad growing up, he had MS in Nigeria, which he was the only person I knew growing up who had it, but he did. And that's because they could afford, to travel to different places to get care. So he got the right diagnosis. But people in Nigeria didn't know anything about MS then, the doctors or the people. So anyway, after decades of gradual, just one physical problem after the other and everything, a month after I turned 40, I herniated a disc in my low back. Now, at that time, it was just attributed to my age, which I wasn't really on board with because I exercised 6 days a week. I wasn't overweight, I was doing all the right things and there was no injury. But the pain doctor was like, oh, it's okay. This is the age where those things happen and all that kind of stuff. But finally, after 2 back surgeries, hip surgery and all that, I, came to the realization that I was dealing with primary progressive MS. Even for me as a doctor, I didn't realize I had MS because PPMS is rare and it's different. And it's not what you think of when you think of MS because you don't see it. I've never met anyone with PPMS. So, but finally, I came to that realization that that is what I was dealing with. Now, the first neurologist I went to, he was
But
an
you
Indian
diagnosed
man.
yourself.
Yeah, I diagnosed
Which
myself.
is incredible. Because,
I don't know
we all
how
have done
long
that.
I was already disabled for 2 years by this point because I was disabled from 2014. But this was 2016 when I'm like, okay, this is what I have, but I need to get a neurologist on board so that we can find a way forward with this. Now, the first guy, we worked for the same health system. And then he did 1 or 2 MRIs and he was like, nah, you don't have MS. He refused to order any more tests. He didn't want to do the, the spinal tap or any of those things. He just thought, no, probably because I'm a Black person, I'm thinking, is why he thought I couldn't have MS. So what I did was, yeah.
No, go ahead, Nico.
I know, right? So I took myself to the MS Center of Atlanta, and thankfully I met with Dr. Douglas Stewart, who has just been amazing. And having done this for decades, he believed my story. He said, your story is MS, your symptoms are MS, your MRI doesn't look like MS. Because at that point, I didn't have any clear-cut lesions on my brain MRIs. It really, I had some white matter stuff, but it could be migraine, it could be anything. It just wasn't clearly MS. So, but what he went ahead and did over the next 8 months was rolled out everything else that it could be. And, all kinds of tests I'd never heard of. I even saw the ENT for a leg biopsy, to rule out Sjogren's and all kinds of things like that. So finally, he called it and he was like, yes, I agree with you, you have PPMS, but if any other doctor sees you because you don't meet the McDonald's criteria, they're gonna say, what kind of voodoo did I pull? How do I know you have MS? But why I'm thankful to this man is he was treating the patient in front of him. He wasn't treating the textbook like all the other people do. And even though there had been a delay, at least, him coming on board kind of turned that around. And of course, there was no medication yet for PPMS when I got diagnosed, and all of that happened later. But, so that was, one of the things that I think was different was the fact that I was Black and nobody just thought about it. And even when I brought it up, it didn't sound, my friends didn't, even my friends who were doctors, when I told them I think I have MS, everybody tried to talk me out of it. They thought I was being negative. They thought, how could you have MS? And then my family members, they didn't know what it was, but they went and found out. My mother-in-law would send me articles. She even found an article about Ocrevus before it came out and was like, oh, this is something I found. And I'm like, oh, grandma, this is what I'm waiting to get on, once it hits the market. So, you know, that's kind of how my
Dr. Taylor,
story
I
was.
found it so interesting because when we talked last time and
Mhm.
you talked about cognitively, I'm so
Oh, yeah.
shot today. We had talked about that thought just passed. So I'll go back to it. Just lost that train of thought, just
Did you want to
went
talk
away.
about a neurosurgeon maybe? Was that what you were
Oh,
asking?
with your neurologist. So one of the things, geez, you have to remind me, this is going to be bad. We're going to have to be cognitively reminding each other. It was one of those days when I woke up this morning, I was like, cognitively, I just drew, and it's been that all day. So what I was trying to say to you was that my favorite neurologist he passed about 6 years ago and was my neurologist for the last 15 years. That's the reason I loved him so much, is because once I found my first African-American female in the infusion center, I love that because he didn't just treat the MRI or the spinal tap. And that began, we had several African-American, we had several different ethnicities, and it wasn't about that. And I loved him and they loved him. And I felt so comfortable about that because when my son was diagnosed, the same thing. It wasn't an easy diagnosis like mine. So I understand, Dr. Taylor, and I appreciate that. I don't understand what it's like to be Black, but I do understand to have a doctor and neurologist that doesn't just look at the MRI. I'm not going to go to Damian until you're finished because I know that Damian owes you a lot, and I'm going to let him give you that stuff after. He can send you some gifts later.
I'll take it, Damian. But yeah, so that's pretty much where I think being Black made a difference, was just the amount of time it took. Because I think all those times in the UK and even in Nigeria, nobody thought that was
Right.
on the table, you know. And I
Right.
didn't even think, you know, I really didn't think it was on the table until much later. So I was late even coming to that realization
Sure.
myself. So I'm glad that now we know, though, that it's not just a condition that affects white women. But we still don't know the differences in how it affects the rest of us because there's just not enough data yet, which is the part that's still going to be affecting diagnosis and stuff. And I think for people, you know, it's getting better evidently, but it's still going to be just, mine didn't look like anything. It just didn't look like anything, you know, but I'm glad that like your doctor, my doctor sees a lot of African Americans too. In fact, Dr. Mitze Joy Williams used to work at the MS Center of Atlanta. So, you know, and they're still very cordial and everything.
Okay,
So,
here's my question. Unmute, all of you. Black or African American? What is okay? What is offensive? Help me. Help me. Jesus,
we're not all the same though.
Because I don't know ever if I'm speaking to someone, am I saying African American or am I saying Black? If I say African American, they're like, please just say Black. And sometimes if I say Black, they look at me like, bitch. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Please help me.
My answer to that is that it's really not, you know, we're all in the same pot, but at the same time, we're not all in the same pot. I'm of Nigerian descent, so I think of myself more as a Black person, but I'm not offended by African American, and I am a citizen now too. So, but you know, it's it's just crazy. But yes, and Rosani, she's, you know, from Pakistan, right? So
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, sorry. So she's a person of color. She's not Black. So it's
Which I was
just
so
different.
excited with
And I'm guessing Damian would fall into the typical African American.
Yeah, Damian, what do you got to say? Before we go to your diagnosis, would you like me to call you Black, African American? How will I offend you? Because that's where I want to go. No, I'm just kidding you.
No,
I would call him rude.
Yeah, yes. Look what you've caused today, Damian, Washington. What do you have to say for yourself?
Damian,
it's your turn now.
Okay, that was the last one.
I've said what I had to say.
No, you have Mike still, so go, you're on.
About that earlier thing. What's up, y'all? I'm Damian. I'm a Black guy. I'm Black. That's it and that's all. Yeah, I'm African American. That's a whole nother paradigm. I'm Black. That's a whole nother paradigm. And I have multiple sclerosis. That's it. That's all.
So anything about your story, any weird things before the diagnosis that they were looking at, like, he probably doesn't have it. He's Black.
No, essentially what I was presenting, the MRI tech said that this looks like MS, and go to a neurologist, and the neurologist looked at it and was like, this is MS.
Right.
And then we took it from there. Like the whole circuitous route for the diagnosis, I had it in a different way, going to different sorts of doctors. Like my gait was messed up, so I went to the podiatrist. My vision was messed up, so my optometrist did not know what to do. So it was that kind of a twisty turny thing, not so much you can't have this, son, so you don't.
Right.
That is an entirely different thing, and that's I can't really comment on that.
So more of the other doctors knowing what to do, how to treat you.
Pardon?
More of the other doctors in the team knowing.
Yeah, it's essentially just one of these things where you look at the data, you look at the zeros and the ones, and the zeros and ones say that it's this thing.
Right.
This is how the patient is presenting. So treat it as such. And that's how I'm here speaking to you right now.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. So now moving on, I want to ask you, how have you felt since COVID, pre-COVID and after? Things have changed in communication and wanting to know more. How do you feel about that in general? I'm just going to let you answer that. Damian, go ahead and go.
How do I feel about
as far as COVID and all of the racial tension that was happening pre and now? Do you think that we've come together at all as an understanding, or have we just like shit the bed? It has just gone all to hell and there's no hope.
Hope springs eternal. Race relations through the pandemic have, at least through my understanding and prism, have not shifted it toward positive in an overwhelming amount.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
What is your answer to that, Rosina? What have you seen?
Race. I don't know. I would say that the pandemic just put a lot of emphasis on mental health here. I mean, that's something that we deal with. I mean, suddenly your body is not your body anymore. Like,
right.
I was telling my husband, I feel like I was buried alive. Like you're in this, inside I'm me. Like, I mean, sometimes, and like inside I feel like me, and then the outside doesn't represent me sometimes.
Right.
And that's what I was telling him. And that's that it affects you mentally, MS. And I just felt that the amount of emphasis, the pandemic, everything, like now they have it set up in place that, oh, you need help because COVID symptoms, and I'm taking advantage of it, even though it's not the COVID symptoms I need help with. And so I guess I'm reaping the benefits in that sense. But I've been caged in my house for 2 years, so I really don't know how it's affecting race relations. And
girlfriend, we gotta get you out sometime. Gotta do something to get you out. All right, John, what would you say before COVID, after COVID? Have you seen anything that has made any difference?
COVID is I think made me feel as if I don't necessarily need the world. You know what I mean? I liked living in my bubble, and now that the world realizes that we can do most things virtually, I don't need to go out. I don't need to do as much as I thought that I needed to do. I don't have to
Right.
be as productive and on the go. You know, you do feel isolated for a period of time. And, you know, like, oh, okay, I miss, you know, hanging with friends or going to different gatherings or concerts, but I don't know. It just gave me a different perspective. And I don't know. I guess I'm okay with it now. I guess I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Did I answer?
right.
I'm sorry. Did I answer?
Kind of, not really. No, you really didn't,
Oh,
but I still love
sorry.
you.
Well, I'm in traffic, so
I know
that's
you
have to
are.
really
I
understand.
know.
Like,
No,
yeah.
really, Dawn, what I wanted to know is, have you seen any racial changes since since COVID and pre and after? Are you feeling like there's any more communication, anything that us white people are getting in a better way?
After George Floyd, yes,
Okay.
I would say. But then I thought, oh my gosh, there's hope. You know, my faith in humanity is restored because not only Black people are outraged, white people are as well. But with the recent,
Yes, we were.
yeah, the people really were, like, as
At least some
whole.
of us. At least
Yeah.
some of us were.
Yeah. I would say a majority of the world was really outraged because this was global, you know, and they were protesting in, you know, Europe and things like that. But with the recent hearings of the judge, soon to be Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, I don't feel as confident in the race relations and what's been happening with bridging of the gap, you know, between Black people, white people, and people of color. I just don't know where this tension comes from and why, you know. I it's hard for me to wrap my head
Damian's
around
just
it.
laughing, and I'm just like, Damian's just literally hysterically laughing, Dawn, when you're talking.
Oh, okay. I don't know why, but okay.
I don't either.
Certainly not hysterically laughing. I'm
Yeah.
laughing at the paradigm.
I might just be being a little bit sarcastic just to get
Yeah,
you going, Dawn.
There's some sarcasm in there, Dawn. You know what my face looked like.
Of course.
It's doing that thing. But please continue.
Yeah, no, I'm disappointed. Put it that
Yeah.
way. I'm very disappointed, and I can't even read the comments. I don't. It makes me feel like I don't want to be part of any of this. Like what I was saying before, I'm happy COVID happened in a way. I'm not happy people passed, but I'm happy to stay in my bubble because I'm not secure in walking out of my house and
Right.
people like not throwing a racial slur these days, you know, with all the, it's sad. And I
would say,
grew up
Dawn,
that way.
you and I both, I felt this naivety, and I always have been a bit naive, that this was in my little Christian, you know, bubble in my mind, like this is really going to help. This is going to be it. This is going to be the point that we like come together, and then it was all like, bleh. And I'm like, no. So I do feel with the little platform I have that I will keep moving forward, because I don't think it's okay. I don't think that this is done. And as long as I have a voice, Lord knows it would take death to shut me up. So I'm going to keep going with it. So Dr. Taylor, what you got?
Okay. Well,
She's like, I've been thinking about this. I got a lot.
With regard to the pandemic, I feel like it did shine the light more on the disparities, with regard to being Black or being a minority or person of color. But I feel like a lot more people got on board? Not necessarily. I feel like people who are already allies like you got to know more and are doing more. But I feel like the people who didn't feel anything before, most of them still don't feel anything, and may even be more negative now and sarcastic about it than before. So I really don't think race relations itself got better. It shifted somewhat, but I don't know, like Don, I'm just not very optimistic about it. I'm just, it's sad. It's sad.
Is there
But yeah.
anybody that is optimistic about this at all? No, they're like, oh. Go ahead.
When you've seen this,
No,
decades over decades and decades, and so many things have happened where you would feel in your mind, okay, maybe this is it. And then it just passes, And when stuff like, one of the things that really got me, this is not even a racial thing, but when those kids were shot, the little kids were shot in their school, when that happened and people were not necessarily moved, that's when I started to feel like there was no hope for mankind,
yeah,
literally. So
like Jesus needs to return today. And that's what I kept thinking is he's coming. It's time because this is crazy.
come get us, Jesus.
So before we move forward, I don't want to move further unless everybody feels that they answered. Okay. So I want you to tell me the biggest thing or one of them that you've experienced as a kid and as an adult, where you have felt so either segregated or had a white person make you feel so less than. And I say that in the sense that I've struggled with my own race. I have to always apologize to my husband because he is the kindest person. And I have a real big issue with any man that's 50 and older right now. I just see them as these right now as just these men that won't change and just get out of the way. If you're a white baby boomer man, just get out of the way and let us just move on with the world and let us have a new world that is not run by you. And I've struggled with that. That's my own personal opinion in having very close Black friends and a granddaughter. And I'm just feel very sick of, I can say that because I'm white and I'm just tired of these Black or the white 60-something-year-old men that just feel that this is the way it's going to be. And if you don't like it, I run the world. So I want whoever wants to go first, raise your hand. And I want you to be honest and truthful about what are the hardest. You can either give me an absolute something that happened to you or the biggest heartbreak you have felt throughout. Anything you want to share that you are just, I want to share this has been done to me as a child and this was done to me as an adult. Let's start there. Don't all jump.
I can start. For a long time, I really did not used to recognize these things. I don't know. I was just kind of blind to it, I guess. So there's probably a lot more things that happened in my life that I don't remember. But one of the ones I remember from like the last decade was walking into a local Y, just to, figure out what's going on here. What do you offer? How much is it? How do we, all that kind of stuff. And I went to the front desk and so I was talking to the guy and looking at the little, pamphlets and stuff they have. And one of them said something about financial assistance or whatever. I was looking at everything, So then I picked it up and put it back down. And then the man says to me, oh, you should apply. And I was like, oh, that's not for me. And he kept pushing like, that you really, really should apply for this. And honestly, it even took me a while for it to sink in that he was assuming that because I'm a Black person, that I needed financial assistance, that was why he was pushing, because, in my innocence, it didn't click at first. And I just looked at him and, I thought to myself, I probably could pay your salary, but I'm not going to be that person, So I just let it be. And all I said was, I don't need that or whatever. And then I walked away. But it really, really stayed with me because it was just so demeaning that this man looked at me And I live in an area where, most people who live around here don't even need, financial, support for those kind of things. So
Right.
we already live in a slightly exclusive part of town, but because I'm Black, all he saw was a Black person, It really didn't matter where we lived.
Right. Right.
So that's one of the things that's one of the ones that
Mhm.
happened in the last decade that I kind of keep remembering.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. All right, Damian or Rosina, who wants to go? All right, go ahead, Damian.
Yeah,
You're
no,
muted.
things.
You did not go through your whole life with nothing. That couldn't have happened.
Not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I am not saying are the things that have happened to me. Those things, they remain where they remained, and
Mhm.
the point in time in which they happened. I don't have any stories of not being served a certain thing, or people saying like, "Oh, you want the financial aid thing with your Black ass." Like, I don't have those stories. I have other stories where, I'm either a younger person or like a, teenager, young adult, where I can understand that either my treatment is different. People are viewing me a certain way because I hold myself a certain way. There's nothing, there's no like event that I can sort of point to
Sure.
right here, right now.
Right.
It's a set of perceptions, and you understand. You live in the skin long enough, you start to understand what things are. And you get to see like, oh, they're speaking to me like this because they think X, Y, and Z, and I know I am A, B, and C, and
Right.
how I will hold myself going forward just depends on the moment. So it's very strange for me to isolate certain points on this large scope of inequality.
Right. And
Experiential inequality.
And I just wanted you to know, I wanted you to have an opportunity to, if there was like something that has always been on your mind, that one thing happened, I wanted you to share it so that it gives a greater understanding, I think, for people who want to know what that feels like, what it feels like to go in somewhere and be overlooked or be told, well, it's not this, but let me go through the list and you can get financial aid, by the way, because you won't be able to afford this. So, and I just wanted to know if there was something, but if you can pause and think on it.
I will defer to our next guest.
Yes, Rosanna, you want to go ahead?
I'm honestly learned, I think that I just want to listen to the other guests because, it's just a different experience,
Yeah.
Being a woman of color and being Black, we unite as minorities, but I can't take the floor and say I know that experience.
But you have your own experience.
Of course, I've had my own experiences. One thing that stands out is when I was diagnosed, the doctor was a freaking angry white boomer. So yeah, he was so not understanding. And I do feel that the way he treated me, he would definitely not treat a white person and get away with it. He knew that my parents, they had a language barrier, that they weren't gonna take him. We didn't have social media, so that asshole got away with how he treated me for a long time. He was called the guru of MS in Toronto. So am I going to risk telling people about, oh my gosh, he was so mean, and lose that guru?
Right.
Or was I just going to suck it up and stop being a crybaby?
Right.
Because who are they going to listen to? Who are we? What are we? Because that's what I felt. And at our first appointment, he said, yes, like, yeah, get ready to apply for financial aid. And I had gone, and I know that meds are expensive, but just the way he said it,
Yeah.
like, you cannot get away with talking to a white person. I don't want to sound racist myself, but you just cannot get away, because when I tell my white friends, they're like, no, he didn't. And then when I tell my colored friends, they're like, oh, okay. Like, it's just something we live with and we get
Right.
by. And now I'm thinking about this now. I mean, it hurt me, but I've never really told anyone. And when you're saying to bring up a situation, I was so embarrassed. I was like, who am I thinking I could even get treatment for this? And that's a disgusting way to think,
Yeah.
you know? And this is like the first time you're seeing this guy. And he looked at my uncle, who actually could pay probably a large chunk of that medication if he had wanted, you know, and just assumed, who do you like think you are, coming in here and not having already kind of looked into things.
Right.
I don't know. I felt like garbage, really, and it hurt. And I was
I'm sure it
embarrassed
did.
for my uncle. And I guess being a tough man, he put up with it too, even though he did have a good job. He's an electrical engineer, well educated, but he knew the language, but he still had to hear that coming from this boomer. That was my experience.
Thank you for sharing that. And Dawn, I don't know if you can, I don't see her picture, so I don't think she's on.
I'm sorry, but I might have to leave without saying anything. Okay. So
I know
don't
when
be
you have to
offended.
go, you go ahead and go.
Yeah. When they
No
come in
worries.
and sign me, I'll just leave. Okay.
So moving forward, when we see the new medications and things like that, do you feel now that you've got a stronger voice to say the things that you want to say without, I guess, without feeling that I'm Black, so I don't have the ability to say this. I don't have the ability to push forward. Do you feel like, not just medically, but in other areas, that you feel the freedom to do the things you want to do, say the things you want to say? Help me understand what it's like going through a regular day now, with the stuff that you struggle with day to day, that we don't understand. Help us in our ignorance understand day to day, being a Black person and still falling under the white world and all of the things that you come into contact with, the medications that are not offered, the things that you don't always know about first. So help me understand what it's like for you guys day to day. Anything different?
I don't have a lot to say on this, because I have to admit that I come from a place of privilege, being a physician. So I would not even say that I have the typical experience of a Black person with MS. Yeah, I've had, my brushes and my instances and all that, but I can't even sit here and act like even I completely get it. I know there's just a lot more that some people go through. Because once I met the right doctor, I've been with him the whole time, and that's been my angel,
Right.
And I wasn't someone who was put on all kinds of meds that wouldn't work. As soon as he gave me that diagnosis and he knew that medication was going to come out, he really didn't even, and honestly, because nothing else was approved for PPMS, he didn't start me on medicine until it came out. But the fact that I had a diagnosis put me on course to get on that medicine. I didn't start having any clear brain lesions until after I was already on medicine. And the thing is, the MRIs don't see all of our lesions,
Right.
They see maybe 50%. So evidently there was something there, but not enough for the MRIs to pick up on. But I would have had a further delay in diagnosis if the man had decided she had to fit the McDonald's criteria kind of thing. So
Sure.
I
Sure.
actually feel like I'm blessed. If someone else who was not a doctor, who wasn't me, had my MS course,
Right.
I don't think it would have ended well at all. That person would be in the bed right now, not able to get up. So that's my take.
I like that. Thank you. Damian, anything on that?
Repeat the question, please.
Hold, please. Hold for my cognitive stuff. No, my question is anything that you would want to say about your care now, anything that you feel like you don't have an opportunity to get to. And what Dr. Taylor was saying is that because of where she's at, she doesn't feel like that's something that she struggles with right now. But anything that you feel like I'm not really getting the answers of the medications that I could have because they're not seeing me. They're seeing my color. They're not seeing.
So I went to Middlebury College, graduated with honors, and
I need some ignorant people on here to help me. No, I'm just kidding.
And in the entertainment business. So I know how to use what I am perceived as to either my advantage or to my working in order to further something. So there's a bit of a disconnect in that specific because it doesn't live in me in this way. Do I see people? Do I talk to people on my show? Do I know this experience? Do I counsel people on the? Absolutely. Like every day.
Right.
Me personally, I walk with a different paradigm in my brain and a sort of a squareness to my shoulders.
Yes.
And I know what can come my way.
Right.
So when it doesn't, fine. When it does, fine. And I respond and act accordingly. There's the notion of folk being surprised or wanting things to be different. That expectation, that's something that lives inside them, but outside of them at the same time.
Right.
And I carry something else inside of me, which is why things outside of me are not really my concern. And so that's even kind of why there's a disconnect, just because I've pruned my either my nerves or my what is that? Is that it? No, I pruned all that stuff as I'm, continuing to move through life. And please believe the Harlem, Bronx, South Carolina man that you would think is there, or like your worst, like, like that. Oh yeah, he's here. He's here. He's very much just, just be happy that you have not presented the stimulus to warrant that aspect of the personality coming at you.
Yeah.
Now, because when
Don't
it
want
is,
that.
people are like, what? I didn't know. And like, well, you line step. So now you're gonna learn today, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's where the phrase comes from. It's just a very, things are different, man. We're still figuring out physiologically how the disease progresses in different races, and in many studies and numbers and such, the disease progression in African Americans, it's harder.
Yes.
And the disease course, it is tougher and sooner.
That's what I'm learning.
That physiologically, they still don't know why.
Right.
Perhaps it's due to this standard of care that we're all talking about, and people not getting the care at the certain times. Is that could be a very big factor in it all. Having like extreme COVID, having a certain race is part of one of those 4 factors. It's like weight, age, race. I forget the other one right now, but in that comorbidity thing, is it specifically the African American body makeup, or is it the African Americans that they have been sampling in this specific way have these sorts of, outcomes. It's sort of a
Right.
mixed bag because the numbers aren't there.
Yeah.
How that all plays out is an entirely different story. Read the book
Right.
Medical Apartheid. Medical Apartheid. I forget the name of the author at this.
Write it down.
However, it's a fascinating book, solid book. It gives you another set of insight into it all. And there are cases in that book where I was around for that. I was in New York City at this time in high school and hearing bzz, bzz, bzz about things that were going on at the university, and that's not right or whatever. That's weird. But come to find out, not only was it actually happening, it was sanctioned by the university. And so that you have to sort of reconcile your current place in the world with these facts and meld your notion of yourself, what you know, what you need for your wellness, with the world and what they think that you might want or need for your wellness, even if that might be something different than you are saying to them in their face. It's a live wire in a lot of ways, because not a live wire, not in a lot of ways, it is a live wire. And as such, there's an individual approach to it. So your folk ain't gonna be my folk, ain't gonna be Dr. Taylor's folk, et cetera, and the nuances in how people deal with each other and see how the world spins around them also vary accordingly.
I like that. Thank you, Damian. And I'll have that book at the bottom of the show notes so other people can see it too if they've not heard of it.
No, you want that Medical Apartheid.
I'm getting it.
What I glossed over right now is in the mid 90s, Columbia University was giving the diet pill fen-phen that stopped a bunch of heart and got they were giving fen-phen to Black children whose fathers were in prison. So 8 to 12-year-old Black boys were given fen-phen to see if it would affect them and their life paths, and will essentially give them the diet pill to see if they won't go to prison. What?
Yeah. What?
What are you talking about, man?
And those are things that we don't know.
Yeah,
those are things that are my kids, our millennial, our Gen, I'm getting them all confused now, that they don't know, and they need to know that.
Yeah, and I was there, and so it's a strange thing to understand what it is socially at the time. It's another thing to read the book 20 years later and be like, is that what was going on? Et cetera. So
well, I lived in Tulsa, Damian, for 4 years. No idea. Who's going to talk about that? They're all white. You go to Tulsa, everybody's white. Not talked about. Not wonder why. Wonder why they're all white. So not discussed. But holy crap! When I was like,
yes. And this lives not, it's different than beneath the surface, than beneath the skin. It's like the molten core of the society that spins, and you don't know that it's there because it's at the core, and there's so many different layers before you even get to that liquid hot magma of charges. However, you have to dig so deep, and unless you are of the people, you don't have the specifics in the ways, and unless you are of not the people, you aren't really going to have the set in the perspective to even begin to understand what it is. It's going to be ham-fisted and like, I want to try to understand, and it's like, you're gonna have to start like 700-800 years ago, fam. And my own specific experience is not my cousins, it's not my mom, it's not my grandmamas, it's not my friend that I went to school with. So there's so many nuances and shades that it's difficult to pin down in a certain way. And that's a lot of the reason why I have this smile on my face in that way, because not only do I keep the smile in my heart, but I'm like, child, you want to go back 1,000 years in this hour? You know what I'm saying?
No. And I never,
and I'm not saying that that's
Yeah.
your intention. However, as the questions come, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
child, that's 50 years ago. That's 300 years ago. Oh, you got to read the book Medical Apartheid. Read that book twice, and then read the books that book sources, that cites. Read the books that book cites.
Yes, got it.
Then we can begin to start to have this conversation. And you know what I'm saying? That's where the jovial nature comes. It's not I'm taking it light. I'm like, ooh, child,
Right.
you got a lot of reading to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly what. So now let's shift a little bit, because you guys have such a great heart, and because I have the two of you on right now. Give advice for those who are not where you are, and give advice to how we live in a world that's this way. And I know we only have a short amount of time, but how do you go on day to day, knowing that there is still the injustice, but smile on your face, and knowing that I may not be able to change everybody, but what if I can help? What if I can help one person see? What if I can help 2 people see? How is it that you have gone from the feeling victimized to being a victor, and taking your life and saying, I'm in charge and I'm moving forward with what I need?
I'm gonna agree with some of the things, or a lot of the things Damian already said, because what it is you cannot embody that stuff, because it will weigh you down so much you won't be able to function. So there is a certain level of dissociation where you literally need to just park it and sit it down. Now, every now and again,
Trying to watch you, but Damian's being obnoxious right now. So,
oh, that's fine. I love what he's doing.
I'm kidding you.
What it is, once in a while, when the conversation warrants, then you open up the box and let some of it out, share like we're doing today. We are, dipping in a little and sharing some of that stuff, but you cannot wake up daily and embody that victim stuff, because you won't progress, and just the whole weight of the injustice is gonna just cripple you.
Right.
So you have to be able to just park it, and and then just know that, like Damian already said, you walk with your head held high. Like you say, he talked about spur shoulders and everything. You just put on that confidence and believe that any room that you walk into, that you're just going to present your higher self, and that the universe will also bring to you everything that is meant to come your way, rather than and honestly, I really do not look for those situations. And that's why I'm one of those people that you really need to be like knocking me in the head, like knocking me out, for me to even notice, because I don't walk around thinking, oh, I'm going to get treated like this because I'm a Black woman or whatever. There's so many things that happen that sometimes it's other people that point it out, because I don't even look at it that way, or I don't see it,
Now, before you go, Damian, I do have a question, because all 3 of us have a very strong faith. Do you think that it has to do with your faith? Does that help in a sense that helps you through each day, each circumstance, each event, because of our faith?
Go ahead.
Oh no, I mean, it all comes before. In some ways it comes before my faith. Like before I was embodying my faith, these things were coming at me, period.
Right.
whether I had faith or not.
Right.
And how I adjusted to them is how I adjusted to them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I understand that, the presence of God in me, sees the presence of God in you. However, that has nothing to do with my neurologist telling me that there's nothing to worry about, that you can stay on this same Copaxone for the rest of your life. Get out of my face, Negro. Like, no, like it's not the same thing. The idea of having faith be something else that you is part of your reference for when you deal with these sorts of, I'll just say static. When you deal with static out in the world and you have your connection to source, and that helps you understand how to deal with the static, whether you get your highest self or your lowest self or somewhere in between. And then that's just the moment.
Yeah.
So it's a strange line to walk, but my faith, like you say, we're all people of strong faith. So
Right.
perhaps that keeps me calm.
Yeah.
In the mix of garbage, but
Right. I guess, and
born
Damian,
and raised in garbage. So
right. I guess I meant it too in a way that, and I'm not even going to pretend like I understand, but in a way that makes you understand, like, you know what, I know it was said, I know it was implied, but I know who I am in Christ. I know the man and woman I am. So, how many times you've had to let things roll off?
Exactly.
Yeah. For me to even try to come up with a number, I couldn't do that. But my question was more, do you believe that having the faith that you have allows for you, because you know who you are, to be able to say, you know what, not today?
I think it helps me tap into my higher self better, for sure. I would say yes.
Yeah, it helps with sense of self, and
Yeah.
it helps with choosing my response, and not reacting. I aim to not react. I aim to respond.
I like that. Oh, that's good.
And that's I get a lot of crap thrown at me. Like today I was late, very much so. And so
I was kidding you though.
No. What I'm saying is, sometimes sometimes the crap thrown at you, it's right for that. One, but two, responding, reacting to that is one thing. You saw my response.
Yeah.
And even if it's like, here is a legit directing at you, my response is a smile. And in the space for there's no words that I can say, but just because I said nothing does not mean that there's no response. And
Right.
that's a trap people fall into. They always want to say something. They always want to do something. And part of embodying the higher way is understanding that a lack of a verbal response is also a response.
Right. Very true. Very, very true. I love that. Very true. And so I think for what I really wanted today to be about, and I know we've had on and off, Mike's coming on later to go, so we'll figure this all out, and Dawn's coming back on. So what I really want is just I wanted a beginning of conversation to go to move forward, and I will do my due diligence. I will read this book and go further and further and deeper in and understand more and more. But in understanding for us, not only in the MS community, and we can say we're in it together, right? We're always saying that we're in it together. But if we don't understand what each other are going through, if we don't understand that, then we're not really in it together. So I have a really hard time with that slogan. When are we in it together, or are we separated? And we're calling it in it together because it's under the umbrella of multiple sclerosis. And so in my little neck of the woods, in my ability to do things, and I plan on doing some fun things with it too, and some silly things, but I really wanted to at least open the door into this, to be able to allow for the beautiful voices and the beautiful people that I've met since the beginning of this podcast. With thanks to you, this is my 50th one that I've done so far. So thank you. So very exciting, very fun stuff. But I couldn't let March go by without at least touching on this, at least beginning this. And I know that we've gone through February, and I know Damian, I was on a call with one of the shows that you did, and we'll go over that later. But I wanted to hear from you, because I haven't seen, in my world, I haven't seen a lot change from COVID. And so I wondered what you have seen, and if you have seen things change, and if you guys had seen more open-minded people coming forward and saying, I want to learn, I want to know more. So I wanted to see that, and then also bring some awareness again to the people that might maybe turn their light on, turn their brain on, and say, you know what, I can still do this. I can still learn. I can still ask. I can ask questions, and I can care. And so I wanted that to be open, and I wanted to leave it open for you guys to share your feelings and how you've dealt with this. And so that was important to me, to give that open forum for you. So I want to, before we close, anything, before I read my book and get more educated, anything that you guys want to share about this, and anything upcoming as well for the two of you that you want to share, something exciting. So 2 parts. Anything you want to share on what we've been talking about, and then anything that's upcoming for the two of you that you want to share.
For me, I just want to say thank you for this platform. Thank you for being an ally. We appreciate you, and you're wanting to understand. And it does mean something that, there are people who realize that, okay, they didn't know as much as they thought they knew, and they want to know more, because we do need allies like you to help spread the word, because people don't listen to us necessarily.
Well, I am one really loud.
Before they listen to us. So
yeah.
Thank you for that. What do I have coming up? I'm creating an online course. And
I know this.
Hopefully that will be out in the fall.
I'm excited about that.
My website is FolakeTaylorMD.com.
I like it. I'm excited about it. All right, Damian, what you got, brother? I know you've got some cool, you always got stuff going on.
I got cool stuff going on.
I go on Twitter. You're on Twitter. You're on everything. You, by the way, you and Dr. Bieber, the reason for getting me on Twitter. The one thing I said I'm never going on.
Yeah, we're public figures now. Just go to youtube.com/nostressms. That's or DamianWashington.com, or
I like it.
Look Damian Washington up on any social medias.
That's all you literally have to do, is then there you are.
That's it.
With that same smile.
I'm a public figure, indeed. I'm just happy to be in this space, and thank you, Kathy Chester, for wanting to even hold this space. Read the book Medical Apartheid, because reading things like this just begins to show how much you do not know, and how much that there is, it's beyond you. But just because it's beyond you does not mean that you cannot affect it in certain.
Say that again.
Because it is beyond you does not mean that you cannot affect it. And that is a very, very important thing to embody and to walk in. And reading Medical Apartheid really gives zeros and ones, like data, facts, black and white on this and this and that and that. And, and that was in 1865. And we are in 2021. And I was-
22.
That's 22. See, look, and I was born in 1981. So I'm a 40-year-old man who was born in the middle of Harlem right before crack, and then crack happened, and so like I saw it all
Yeah.
of that is inside of me. That was what I'm saying. It's all individual and all varied in that way. So continue to read, be curious. And just know that, you know, everyone has growing to do. Even the person that you think that you need to grow to be in the same room, to be intellectually on the same page with, they got to grow too in their own ways and stuff. So let's do it. Let's all continue to grow in our own,
Amen.
etc.
Amen.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
And I agree with that, because even for me, being a first generation immigrant, my experience is different from yours, and I am still learning the Black
Right.
experience in this country.
Right.
You know,
Mm.
I'm still learning. I've been here 22 years,
Yeah.
still learning.
You have a whole
And
other
Right.
paradigm.
And that's so different because, like you
Mhm.
said, being and coming here, so
Mhm.
different from your experience and Dawn's experience. I
Mhm.
mean, still like Damian, male and female, but
Yeah.
you were here, you grew up here. So a very different situation than someone coming in.
Mhm.
Born and
From it.
raised, like Harlem, middle of Black America. And doctor, you're Nigerian, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, so you have the Nigerian
I was born in the UK. Parents are Nigerian.
on top
Right?
of that, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's so everyone has different layers, and everyone has something to learn from somebody else. So what you are drawn to, learn, read,
Yes.
uncover more. The universe will give you more. You cannot. There's no way you can scrape the bottom in your lifetime. The universe will continue to find ways to give you more to dig into.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, I hope you two know how much I absolutely love and adore you both. And am always excited to have you on. Excited to all the collaborations that we're doing, and excited to hear from Dawn and from then getting my story from Mike and putting it all together.
Put it all together.
And put it all together like there was never any hiccup at all, and it just all went smoothly together. And thank you, Jesus, for my podcast editor who will make this all come together. So that was just a big thing, and I will read my book, and we will do this again another time. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate this, because I felt that this was something that was not only on my heart, but on a lot of our younger kids. I have 3 kids. Oh, I have 5 now. I have 5 adult children and a lot of questions. And with my newly Black granddaughter, I just felt like we need to understand more, at least the ones that care. And we can't unless we talk. We can't. And so if this white, crazy blonde girl is going to be the one that opens up more understanding, so be it. I love to do it. I love you guys, and we'll do it. But thank you for today. Thank you so much for taking time out. And Damian, we'll just go back to the day you thought we were going to do it. We'll just have some more fun.
Yeah, no, it's pardon me, but thank you for holding this space, guest gesture, and thank you, Dr. Taylor, for being in this space with us and holding this space and then speaking about these things, because no one has the one thing to say, and we all have a different set of perspectives to add to the pod, and whoever's listening has their own things, what they pick up or not. So it's all, you know, an individual experience. So thank you for holding the space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And any other books that you guys have, please let me know, and I'll put them at the show notes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. I want you guys to have a great rest of your day, whatever time you're at, and love you guys. Can't wait to talk to you soon. Enjoy. Thank you. And I'll talk to you later. Bye,
Take
guys.
it easy. Bye.
Yeah,
Hey, bye.
Hold on.
Peace, Dr. Taylor. I see what I see.
Hold on. Stop it. Hold,
I'll see what I see.
Wait, hold.